Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really embarrassed after that very nice introduction. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's been very nice to be here back on campus. I graduated in the year of 2012 from the Masters of Organizational Leadership from Lewis, and so proud to be back. I was so excited. Ever since Dr. Burke reached out to me in November, I've been waiting, and I even told him in the email, we can do it sooner. You know, we don't have to wait till April. I can come in anytime you want. But it's nice. Good things come for those who wait, I think, and I'm happy that it worked out. And it's such a beautiful day today, and yesterday was even nicer. And super excited to be here. I represent the Syrian Community Network, and I founded the organization last year. I didn't have that in my bio. I guess I should include that in my bio, I guess. But it's been an honor, really, to found this organization. I used to be a part of the organization that Kathy mentioned, SAMS. And so this is an offshoot of SAMS. I started under them exploring what it takes to support refugees, how do refugees resettle here in the US, what it takes to, Chicago, is a hub for refugees, the city of broad shoulders. What does it take to support refugees coming in? And then using my experience as an immigrant to the United States, what did it take, how did I adjust in a way that was supportive and that included the community. It's really important to have community support. So that's why we put the name community, Syrian Community Network, because it's all of us bringing our networks together to support people. One of the things that I value in my Lewis University education is talking about connectors. My professor told me, Maureen Kean, she was my first professor in the first class that I took here, and she told me, you're a connector, and it's very important to have good connections, to loop in people from different communities, to be able to oversee and implement your vision. What is our vision? Our vision is to support refugees. How can we do that? Is by all of us together, coming together, people from different faith groups, people from different communities, to really give a nice welcome. This year, the most trending hashtag in the world was refugees welcome, right? So this is what we saw, and that's why I included refugees welcome in the in my title, because this is what we've been talking about for the past year or so. So I'll kind of walk around. I like to walk while I speak, but maybe I'll stay here. So oops. Here, I got it. Okay, here. So this is my picture of my Lewis, of my graduation. I wanted to include it because really I do value my education here at Lewis. I'll share with you a few things of why I really enjoy being in this school. First of all, because it is a Catholic university. I felt because and I am Muslim, and I felt I would be at home here because I feel that an institution that has a religious mission and a vision, and it incorporates service and service to others, I felt that this would match my values as a Muslim. And so I felt very comfortable here at Lewis University. And then also that the class sizes were very small, and then I enjoyed when I was taking my classes, I was looking in my computer today, looking at some of my research papers. One of the papers we talked about was servant leadership. And a lot of the students would, bring in examples of what is the servant leader. It's the leader that rolls up his sleeves and gets down and gets busy and works and to support the mission, to support the people. And a lot of the students would bring in examples, and a lot of the students would bring in Brother James Gaffney, and I see that he walked in just right now. And a lot of times that the students would mention you, Brother James. So I want to congratulate you on your years of service to Lewis, and I know that you're retiring, and I hope it's a beginning of a beautiful beginning for you right now. But so many students would mention you and how you would be a part of the work, the day-to-day activities on campus. I didn't have the pleasure of working with you or as much as I would have loved to, but because we were at night school, so we were busy adults, so we weren't able to interact with many of the staff. And this is my family, because it takes a family to support, especially working adults. We need our families to support us. So I wanted to highlight that. So I'll jump right into my presentation. With the Syrian conflict that was happening since 2011, when many young people, all of you have heard of the Arab Spring, right? Have you heard of the Arab Spring? So when young people in Tunis and in Egypt took to the streets demanding end to the corruption, we want freedom, we want services, we want a good economy, we want jobs. What do young people want after they graduate college? They want a job. And so because of the corruption and because of the system that was built in the Middle East of dictatorship, young people like yourselves did not have those opportunities. Young people usually graduated to college, ended up either working at their dad's store, or if they were a doctor, lucky enough to be a doctor or a pharmacist, they were able to find maybe a job, or their father would open up a pharmacy for them, or their father would open up a medical practice for them. But then really there were no opportunities. So a lot of young people took to the streets, and people in Syria did the same thing, young people. But in those first 9 months, it was a non-violent movement. People were demanding end to the corruption. We want change. We want reforms. But unfortunately, the regime over there cracked down on people very hard, and it turned into what it is, the mess that it is right now. But really, the ideals of what started in Syria was really beautiful. It was a nonviolent movement for 9 months. And then you saw this terrible regime that has been bombing its people, bombing the hospitals. So people ask, well, why are people leaving Syria? Well, if you have, if your hospitals and schools are bombed, you've kind of lost the infrastructure of your neighborhood. So if you are, for example, if you're a pregnant woman and you are about to deliver and your hospital has been bombed, so you need to go somewhere else where there is a hospital that can service you. So a lot of people were moving around inside of Syria because they've lost the infrastructure, or they've lost whatever was supportive in their neighborhoods. And we saw the first refugees leaving Syria in June of 2011. This was the first time Syrians ever became refugees. Usually in history, many people, from any conflict, people would come to Syria as refugees. The Armenians came to Syria, the Greeks came to Syria, the Palestinians came to Syria, people from Lebanon came to Syria, Iraqis came to Syria. Syria was always the hub for many refugees coming in from all kinds of conflicts. But this in 2011 was the first time that we saw Syrians in our history to become refugees. And so they started going to Turkey. So they would go north to Turkey, south to Jordan, and then into Iraq and in Lebanon. But really the world didn't pay attention until what was happening until, I'll go back to this picture, until little Aylan Kurdi washed up on shore in Turkey. So all of you have seen this picture. I'm sure you've seen it. You've seen it on Twitter. If you're big on social media, this was a trending picture when Aylan Kurdi washed up. It was when humanity washed ashore. It really was. This was when people started paying attention that, oh my gosh, what is going on in Syria? Why are people leaving Syria? And this became, it opened up a lot of, conversation on what's happening. And really, this little boy, I think, really moved us to action. Once this picture came up on the internet, our organization, very small organization, we were hit on in 1 week we had over 800 hits on our internet, on our website, because people were interested. What's going on? How do you support refugees? And we were getting overwhelmed with so many responses and asks of, please, how can we help? How can we sponsor a Syrian refugee family? So we were extremely overwhelmed because of what was happening. It's a good problem, but it's not a good problem when you don't have the capacity to be able to help, to manage the volunteers. But this was when everybody started noticing. And I had the honor, actually, of going to Greece in this last month in March with my husband, and we visited Idomeni refugee camp. This is on the border between Greece and Macedonia. When the refugees in the summertime were taking the boats and getting into Greece, they were walking from Greece into Germany or Sweden or Netherlands or Belgium or France to settle, to find a new life. But now many countries like Macedonia and Hungary and Serbia have closed down their borders, so the refugees are not able to walk towards Germany, which is really sad because, if you look back in history, not so long ago, in 1956, Hungarians were leaving, trying to escape the iron fist of communism, and were trying to escape to Western Europe. They wanted to go to Germany, to West Germany, and to France, and so that they can also have a life. And so we saw, if you Google search Hungary in 1956, you'll see pictures of Hungarians carrying back their bags and trying to go through barbed wires so that they can escape. So it's really sad that history is repeating itself, but we have not learned those lessons that refugees need. As human beings, we need safety, and we need to be supported. And when you're a refugee, no one wants to be a refugee, but you leave because you have to. There's something is going on in your homeland that you end up leaving. So these are some women that lived on the train tracks. These are some children. A lot of NGOs will pass out blankets, and then, so what people do is they burn the blankets for warmth because there's not enough wood. So it releases like a really ugly, like a really toxic fume. So you see everybody there with the same symptoms: coughing, like this really bad cold, and it really like. It's kind of strange there, but it's and a lot of people were complaining that they haven't had a shower in 1 month. So imagine yourself being stuck at the border, hoping to get through, and they will not give up hope that maybe Macedonia will open their border and then they can get through. This is what it looks like when it rains, and it's like puddles and it's muddy. So this is one of the refugee women that we met, and I really enjoyed meeting her. My husband and I were on PR, and we spoke about her story. Her name is Abir, and I really was touched by her story because she brought her cat over from Syria. I don't know why, but we here in the U.S. we have such a soft spot for our pets, right? We love our cats, we love our dogs and our birds, and they're part of the family. And so same thing, she could not leave her cat behind. So what she did is put the cat in her baby carrier, and she took her across. And when she wanted to ride the boat, she pretended it was a baby, and she covered it up, and she kept pretending like it was, so they would let her get on the boat because no one's gonna let the cat on the, So she brought her cat with her. The cat is Tabush. His name is Tabush. And this is her daughter. Her daughter is Isra. Isra is a college student like you are, and she's studying engineering, but because of what was happening in Syria, she was not able to finish her degree. And so she's hoping to be reunited with her father in Germany, and then she wants to continue her studies. And I promised to share her story because I really love this family. And here's the cat, also Tabush. So, when people ask, well, why are people leaving Syria? What's going on? So I tell them, well, this is a picture of a random city. And this is in Syria. This is the city of Homs, where I was born. So I'll backtrack a little bit about my story. I'm half Syrian. My father's Syrian, but my mother is Canadian. And my father came here in the 1960s to study engineering, and he met my mother here, and they lived here for a while, and then they moved back to Syria, where my father wanted to work, and then eventually we came back in the 80s. But this is my city. This is where I was born. And so when people ask me, well, why are people leaving? I show them this picture. They're like, well, what are they staying there for? There's nothing. There's no hospitals. There are no schools. This is what it looks like. Something out of World War II, right? Everybody's saying that what's happening now in Syria and the refugee crisis is the same type of conflict and crisis as World War II. So it's really sad to see something like this. This is the city I was born in, so it's like very difficult to see a city like this. Knowing that refugees will be coming here to Chicago, in 2013 we heard from the State Department that refugees will be coming to the U.S. They're going to start the vetting process, and so we decided, okay, we have to be prepared. We don't want to be like deer in headlights, like, oh no, refugees are here, what do we do? How do we support them? Let's start preparing. So in 2013, I started thinking about, okay, how we're going to do this. Let's create some kind of entity or an organization. It was just a committee at that time, just a working committee. So we started going to conferences and attending and high-level meetings, and just to hear from different people, what does it take to support a refugee family coming in? And support doesn't mean money. It means friendship. It means community. It means love, it means welcome, it means many things. So we started to try to understand that, and then we talked to other ethnic groups. How did you support your refugees as they came in? What things worked for you? What things didn't work for you? So kind of I started on this journey in 2013, and in 2014 really got into it. And then in January of 2015, we heard that our first family had arrived. So we were so excited, and then we decided, okay, that's it, we're gonna launch. So in 2015, in January, we decided to give ourselves a name, so we called it Syrian Community Network. And then we put together our mission and our vision, and our mission and our vision is to help people integrate seamlessly, to make them feel at home, to welcome them, and to really not only just to give them services, but also to give a sense of community, which is so important. So here, this is the first family that we visited. This is Mayada Turkmani. She's a single mom. So what the State Department right now, who they're resettling is, they're resettling people that fall into the most vulnerable category. Vulnerable meaning single mothers, persons with injury, people who have an illness, maybe someone from the LGBT community, any of the minority groups that might be facing difficulty, that falls into the vulnerable category. So Mayada fits into that category because she's a single mother. Her husband was killed by a sniper in 2012. So this was the practice of the Assad regime, where they would just normal civilians, just to intimidate people, would maybe have snipers and shoot at people. I want to give you some homework to do. I want you all to go look at an article, Google search Corridors of Death. And this is an article in the Foreign Policy magazine. So it's called Corridors of Death, and it talks about the use of snipers to intimidate people, average people like you and me, trying to go to work, try to go buying groceries, walking. In Syria, in the Middle East, people walk a lot. They don't use. They use some public transportation, some people drive, but a lot of people walk to and from work. They buy groceries, they drop their children off to school walking. So snipers were used to intimidate people. So I think this would be a very good read for all of you, just to get a sense of what was happening. So this was her husband, Mayada's husband, was killed. And so after this, I'll show you some slides about one particular, her daughter, Widad, her middle daughter, and she's the one on the far left. This is my colleague Hadia with the glasses. So Widad, this family moved around in Syria so many times. They were internally displaced, but then one day they woke up and their house was on fire, and because of the bombing, and Widad sustained some injury. Until to this day, she has like shrapnel in her body from the time she. And I'll show you a video about her, how she has developed. So these are pictures of some of the families that we serve. This was last summer. We had 11 families at that time. Right now we have about 32 families altogether, so that's about 160 individuals. There are some families who are resettled by World Relief. World Relief resettles them in Aurora, Wheaton, West Chicago, and in Westmont. So there are some families in the west suburbs. Most of the families are resettled in the north side because of the Catholic Charities and Heartland Alliance and Refugee One. These are the major resettlement agencies. They're all in the north side, so they settle them near their offices. And then we actually are now going to be taking an office up in the north side so that we can serve the refugees. Now we've moved into that phase now. These are Anas and Yusuf, the third grader in kindergarten. They're very cute boys. They're adorable. Yusuf is, he's very cool. You can see how he has his collar up. This is how he walks around. He always with his collar up and his shirt open all the way. I'm like, what are you, John Travolta or something? So he's very cute. This is Shahid and Shayma, also part of that first family that we visited. We had a back-to-school backpack drive for them, and we collected backpacks. One of the things when I came to Chicago, buying school supplies. We went to school. We didn't know anything about school supplies. We went to Syria school with a notebook and a pen. I go to school the first day. Everybody had school supplies and glitter and crayons and glue and everything. And I didn't have anything. And so this is like one of my pet peeves. I told my board, I'm doing a back to school drive because I didn't have those things when I went to school. My first day, I'm making sure that all the kids have their supplies so that they can feel happy and ready for success, and they feel that they fit in with everyone. Because as kids, you don't want to be the only one that does not have a backpack or crayons or whatever. So I made sure that everybody had a backpack and their school supplies. These are Abdul Hamid and Usama. Senator Durbin has a blow-up picture of them. We took them to Senator Durbin's office. And Usama, he's going to be the next soccer champion of Chicago. I guarantee it, because he's 2 years old and he knows how to handle a ball so well. This is a little shahid also. We did, after Ramadan, we have Eid, our holiday is Eid, and so we did a whole toy drive for them so that they feel welcome. And you know, because you know, as Muslims and Arabs, we come from big families, and we're used to being, especially around the holidays, our families are a big part of our, you know, celebrations, and we have dinner and breakfast. You know, by the end of the day, you have a sugar coma because you've eaten breakfast, lunch, and dinner with your family, and dessert, and tea, and coffee, and all kinds of things. So we wanted to make sure that they felt happy and welcomed, and so we made sure we had toys for them, and that we did a party for them, so that they don't feel strange in a new city. And one of the things that we have been doing, and I think this is something that we have been successful at, and I hope to improve on and to build on, is some advocacy campaigns that we've done. We took the refugees with us to Washington, D.C., and we partnered with different organizations, Shoulder to Shoulder, and some of the religious organizations, the Catholic bishops, and some of the other religious organizations were all there, and we all stood in front of the White House and asking President Obama to increase the numbers of refugees. This was back in September, when everything, you know, President Obama had not made a statement at that time. So we took the refugees with us, and we helped them prepare a statement, and to ask President Obama, please let children like myself come to the United States. You know, in Syria, we don't get an opportunity to organize and mobilize and to go. You don't have access to government, because, you know, so for them to go and to stand in front of the White House is a big deal. To be able to ask President, you know, increase the numbers. So giving them that voice is really important. And also something that we did here in Chicago at the local level, when Governor Ronner said that we don't want to welcome refugees to the state of Illinois, I think all of you remember that. So what the alderman did, Alderman Burke and a few other aldermen, decided to pass a resolution in this, that the city of Chicago is welcoming to Syrian refugees, and they invited us and they invited the refugees to, and they welcomed us in City Hall, and it was really a symbolic moment. I mean, it might not be a big deal, but it's a very symbolic gesture that Chicago is a unique city, really. It's a hub for many refugees. If you go to the north side, you'll find refugees and immigrants from all over the world. It's like a model UN, really. It's amazing. And so Alderman Burke really pushed to have this resolution. And also he did a few other things, but we also got together with him and some other people to do a press conference, and we had the refugees themselves speak on their own behalf, and because we want to empower them to be able to speak. We don't want to speak for them or about them. We want them to be able to share their stories. So they were able to stand in front of all of the media, the press, everybody was there, and they said that I am a refugee, I am here, I'm just like you, this is my story, and please welcome us and welcome others just like us. So I'll now talk about this young lady, Widad. So this is the girl that has shrapnel in her body. So last year when she came, she had no smile, she had no expression, she never spoke. As much as I tried to, talk to her, I was her mentor actually. I mentored this family. I signed up to become a mentor with Refugee One, and so I was visiting this family every week. To help them, I would help them with homework, I would help them with, all kinds of things. But with that, I just could not get through to her. And then we started, thinking like, well, what does she need? Maybe she needs friends, maybe she needs people to, help her feel welcome. So we found this organization called Girl Forward. And what they do is they work with adolescent refugee girls, and they do mentorship and yoga and exercise and health and wellness and fitness and all these types of things. So when we signed her up with that program, she just blossomed, and by the end of the program, she got the most improved English learner. And so that's a really big deal, and she speaks so well now. And I'm going to show you a video about her interview and some of the work that she's been doing. So she's really blossomed. So this is Alderman Burke also, in Thanksgiving, we wanted the refugees to have an American experience. So Alderman Burke and Mayor Rahm Emanuel organized a Thanksgiving dinner for the refugees, and they got to enjoy a turkey and stuffing and everything that goes along with an American tradition. So it was really nice. So this is Mayor Emanuel serving the refugees. So one of the refugee families said, our politicians kill us, and here the politicians are serving us. So I said, yes, this is the first time they had their sleeves up, and they were really, they were serving all of the refugees, going to their plates. And more advocacy efforts also with Senator Durbin. He's been very supportive of refugees. He even, one time he spoke on the Senate floor, and he included Widad's story about her family, how they came to the United States, to Chicago. And so this is also, we took her to Jan Schakowsky. So I'm going to play this video. Can we get the video ready? I'm sorry, if you can. So this video is, so Widad goes to Sullivan High School in the North Side. And Jan Schakowsky is an alumni of Sullivan High School. So we had a meeting one time in Thanksgiving, and so we talked about, how can we include Widad and have her to go and interview the Congresswoman in the story. So I'm going to show you a video of Widad's interview of Jan Schakowsky, and I want you to listen to Widad's, how she's speaking, how beautiful she speaks, and her English, how well it is, and what a difference a year makes.
How do you feel about Syrian refugees?
Well, from the very beginning of the conflict and watching what was happening to families and people in Syria, living in Syria, I felt like the United States ought to take more Syrian refugees, and especially to my community, because we are a community that is welcoming to people from all over the world. I was part of a group that sent a letter to the president that said that we should take thousands more Syrian refugees. Part of what really drove me to be in favor of bringing Syrian refugees is that as a Jew, even though I was not born through much of World War II, part of my history, my family history, some of the boats that even made it as close as they could see the lights of Miami, Florida, and these were people who were escaping death, were turned back, and people were sent back to certain death. I thought, that should never happen again. We shouldn't leave people to die, innocent people, people who just wanted to live a modest life, a decent life, without fear. I love Sullivan. I love my teachers. I have lots of friends, but the transition I found personally to be really hard. How about you? A bigger transition than mine.
When first getting my school, so I don't have friends, so that's so hard. And then when I start like 1 month, 2 months, I have like one friend, and she my best friend now.
She still is?
Yes, I love her. And now like I have something, I don't want to change my school because our teacher, I have my teacher, my best friend, my best teacher. So I don't want to change something because I love something. Yeah.
What about language? Your English is good now, but how is it now?
When I came to something, my English like not so much. So I can't speak, I'm so shy. It's like when people talk with me, I don't understand or anything, but now it's okay because I learn. And a lot of people when come to America never speak English and I learn.
Well, Solomon is so different from when I went there. I spoke at a high school graduation, and I said to the graduates, we had to leave the sheltering walls of Sullivan High School in order to see the real world. But I looked at them and I said, look around you. The whole world is here.
Yeah.
I mean, has anybody been criticized you because of where you come from or your religion or anything like that? No. Because everybody's different there. Yeah. What about, tell me about you. You faced a lot of challenges before you came here. Right? You were in Lebanon for how long?
Yeah, 2 years or 2 years and a half.
2 years and a half.
And coming come to America, my mom said we want to come to America. And
Oh, I'm glad that you did. It was so nice to meet your family at school or in college, I'd be honored for you to be an intern for us.
So what a difference a year makes, really. She came here in January 2015, did not speak a word of English, and now she's, conducting an interview with a congresswoman, a U.S. congresswoman of all things, in her office. So it was really a great moment. I was so inspired to see her and to see how beautifully she's blossomed. And it's very important to have girls, take the lead, and it's really I feel like it's very important to see her master those questions and to practice them. And even when we were on the way to the office, and she was just reading them, and she said, well, I want to help the community. So I told her, well, why don't you ask her for an internship? So she said, what does internship mean? So I explained to her what that is. And so, but it was her idea, but I just gave her the wording for it. So it was really nice. And this is something that now we're looking to do. We teamed up with the American Red Cross. We did a program with them about fire safety, and we did like a scrubby bear, hygiene types of things. And so the Red Cross is going to come up with we're going to work together to come up with a volunteer project for the refugees so that we can get them to give back to the community. I think this is very important. Volunteerism is instilling in them a sense of volunteerism that you can help improve your community is something that will, I think, empower them, and it's something that they have not experienced maybe in Syria, but now they can experience it here. So one of the ways people ask us, well, how can we help? We want to help refugees. So something that happened was that when Aylan Kurdi's picture came up, and then also when the governor made those statements, and we were just overwhelmed with volunteer requests, and can we help them, please? And how can we, we want to help them. We want to visit. We want to resettle. We want to, house people or house refugees in our homes. And so we started to explain to people that what we can do. And so we came up with this idea of, okay, the mentorship program. So I was a mentor for for Widad's family, so why don't we come up with copy a similar idea and train our volunteers so that they can help make an impact with the families, because something that the families kept telling us, we feel lonely. We know not a lot of people visit us. Sometimes it's hard. We live an American lifestyle where everybody's busy, and we don't have that much time to give. And even if I do go visit the families, I'm looking at my watch. I'm like, okay, it's been an hour, where they want us to stay there for a long time. They value time, but we value being on time. I'm here at 9, I'm out by 10. So this doesn't work for them. So this is something that they always feel that they feel lonely. So having a mentor and coming to your house once a week or twice a week, we felt like this would be a really great idea. So we came up with a mentorship program. We train our volunteers, we do background checks, and then we place them and connect them with families. So right now we have about 77 volunteers, and we have about over 30 families. All of them have mentors, so sometimes per family they have 3 mentors. So lucky families, right? They have so they have a mentor for the dad, they have a mentor for the mom to help them with English, and then some of the kids, they have tutors, and some have two tutors to help them with homework, after school activities. Some of the volunteers, they say, well, I don't want to become a mentor, but I just want to be a reserve volunteer, where maybe once in a while I might take them to the museum, or I might take them to the zoo or something. So tell them, okay, if you just want to do like once a month an activity with them, that's fine. You can be a reserve volunteer. And then we have the urgent volunteer, which is for emergencies. Sometimes things come up and we need a ride, or somebody has an emergency or an accident. So we need help with volunteers to assist us. So it's been very nice, and the volunteers feel engaged. And again, it really came out of a response of so many people wanting to help. So every time a politician says something, or Donald Trump says something, we don't want refugees to come here, we get more volunteer requests. So and we get more donations. So that's a good thing. So this was one of the trainings that we had for the volunteers. We had it at one of the local libraries, and it was a full house. And this is these are a group of volunteers together from the Beth Emet synagogue, and so we paired them up with a Syrian Kurdish family. So this family is Kurdish from northern Syria, and so they go and visit once a week, and they help them out with homework, or whatever, an outing, or whatever questions, or they take them to the market, or whatever the family needs. But we facilitate the initial introduction, and then they take it from there. This is also the man on the left is a doctor. His name is Dr. Firas. He was imprisoned in Syria because he helped his neighbor, treat his neighbor. He's a doctor, and so the regime imprisoned him for 1 year and tortured him, and he still bears the scars of that, of that experience. And so he was resettled here in October by Catholic Charities. So yay, Catholic Charities. So I'm sure you're very familiar with their work. And this is his wife, and these are their mentors, and they visit them. And they this weekend actually they're going to be taking them out to the museum, I believe. So it's exciting to see them develop this nice friendship, and they kind of look alike, right? Their mentors and the family, they look like they're related. Also, another idea that we had is that a lot of the women, the resettlement agencies, they ask them that you need to work. They tell them you have to work because you have to pay rent. I don't know if you're familiar with the resettlement process, but after the first 3 months, the State Department will help pay the rent for those first 3 months from the welcome package. Every family will get a welcome package, and includes money for rent and for some basic furnishings. And a lot of people who help set up the apartments will donate furniture. So they try to save that money for rent, because that's like the biggest need. And so one of the programs that we do have is that we always fundraise for rent. Because really the first 3 months, I mean, you just got here, and now you have to learn English and get a job and pay rent. And these days the rent is in the north side is sky high. You have $900 for a 2-bedroom apartment, which is really very expensive for the families, especially when you get a job that's minimum wage, that's paying you $10 an hour. I mean, and it's really nothing, and it goes by really quickly. And so what we've done is that we've supplemented the rent for 50% of the rent. We don't want to give them 100% because that will create a culture of dependency, but we help them with 50% of their rent for the first year, so that they can at least have an opportunity to breathe, to adjust, to feel that they are home. Many of these families have been displaced for 2 or 3 years, like Widad's family, moved around in Syria about at least 5 or 6 times until they ended up in Lebanon. Even in Lebanon, they moved around 5 or 6 times. They were in Lebanon for 2 years until they made it here to Chicago. So imagine your family for 5 years being displaced, going around from place to place, not knowing where to call your home. But so now they're home, and so we want to make them feel as welcome as possible and give them that opportunity to kind of take a breather, enjoy some of the programs that are available. A lot of the resettlement agencies have good programs, like they have women's programs, like where they do Zumba and cooking and all these types of things. So we want to support them as much as they can. So one idea is some kind of like entrepreneurship that we're trying to develop. A lot of the women are very skilled at cooking. And any of you have had Syrian food. Syrian food is the best. I know I'm biased. I see some people here. I know you're going to tell me no, Palestinian food is better, but I know I'm biased. But it really is, the dessert is like amazing. So some of the women are very skilled at making like small desserts. So we launched an idea called Syrian Delights, and we're going to be launching on a website where people can put in orders for kibbeh. I don't know if any of you have had kibbeh or tabbouleh or hummus or some of those desserts. So people can order for their party, and we'll either deliver it to you or have an Uber send it to you or whatever. But we're still, it's in the development phase, but we're trying to get some of the women support them so that they, if they can't drive an hour to the factory to work, maybe they can at least have this skill that they can put to use and make some extra money on the side, and they feel then they're empowered. And in time, we hope to grow this business for them and for ourselves also, so that we can, help them in their dreams and becoming real Chicagoans and entrepreneurs. And some of the women also, they are seamstresses and they do crochet, so also trying to market their products. You can find us on social media. We're very active. Facebook is very, busy, and our Twitter, our Instagram. So I want you all of you here are on Snapchat. We're on Snapchat also. All of you, everybody who's young, quick, very easy. For us, maybe it takes a little longer. It took me about 2 weeks to figure out Snapchat. So I'm sure all of you probably figure it out in a minute. But for me, I'm like, wait, what is this? And how do you swipe back and forth? And I couldn't get it. But I urge you all to follow us on social media. So I want to play that one last video. Thank you so much for your assistance. So this is a family, Abu Jabr family. They're from Homs, my city. And we love this family because they have this go-get-em attitude. They live in Aurora, and they've pulled their resources to buy a car. They're working. The husband, wife, and his 2 sisters all work. They go to the factory from 5 in the morning and they get out at 5 in the evening. And so they do this every day. So this family is amazing.
Before the war, we were living by safe and security, like we are living as a loving brother together. Everybody respect each other. I don't know what happened. Suddenly, everything is a change. The country is not safe. Most of people lived homesick because the rocket and the bomb is coming from the sky. You cannot to walk in this street because somebody maybe shot you. So I moved to Turkey to bring all my family to Turkey to live there. More security, more safe. We make it for interview. They asked us everything about life, about the life in Syria, about everything. Why live in Syria? Why live Syria? What happened in Syria? It take 1 year and 6 months to finish the interview, to decide to move to America. When I arrived to the US, we felt more comfortable, more relaxed, no stress, no afraid from anything. We lost citizen and country, everything, we lost everything. But here, I feel so happy and more security about the future for me and for my family and for my children.
So again, this family is just amazing. They inspire us every day with their hard work ethic. Some of the refugees that are here are not able to work because they have an injury, or some of them have an illness. Like we have one family that has cancer. Thank you so much for playing the videos. We have one refugee who is legally blind. We have one refugee family who the husband actually was shot in the leg by one of those like bullets that destroys all your muscle tissues, and like he's not able to walk. So a lot of the families are not able to work, but this family is, and we're really happy for them and really proud of them. And so the families who are not able to work, that's why we try to support the women with the Syrian Delights, having the opportunity to make some extra money on the side. And I just want to end with some quotes from the book of Leviticus and some powerful words from also the Prophet Muhammad. It's something that we as faith groups, that we all share a love and a love of service to humanity. And everyone's religious tradition that we are supposed to support the refugee. Prophet Jesus was a refugee. Prophet Moses was a refugee. Prophet Muhammad was a refugee. Prophet Abraham was also sought refuge elsewhere. Every story in the Quran or in the Bible or in the Torah talks about people running or seeking refuge elsewhere. So here's one quote from the book of Leviticus, chapter 19, verses 33 to 34. When a foreigner resides among you in your land, do not mistreat them. The foreigner residing among you must be treated as your native born. Love them as yourself, for you were foreigners in Egypt. From the book of Psalm, verse 143, verse 9. Deliver me from my enemies. O Lord, I have fled to you for refuge. The Prophet Muhammad's teachings. God will say on the day of judgment, Son of Adam, I was sick, but you did not visit me. My Lord, how could I visit you when you are the Lord of the worlds? Did you not know that one of my servants was sick and you did not visit him? If you had visited him, you would have found me there. Then God will say, Son of Adam, I needed food, but you did not feed me. Did you not know one of my servants was hungry, but you did not feed him? If you had fed him, you would have found its reward with me. So thank you so much, and thank you for this opportunity to be here.